Thank you for coming. My name's Warren May. I am a CPA. I'm the Comptroller and Assistant to the General Secretary Treasurer at the International Association of Firefighters. We're here today to talk about technology and how each of us in this room have a place in driving that technology and how we use it in our organizations. So the International Association of Firefighters, we're a nonprofit association. We represent approximately 300,000 of the professional firefighters and paramedics in both the U.S. and Canada. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C., but we have an office up in Ottawa, Canada also. And the U.S. and Canada, we break it up into 16 districts, so we across the basically North America, except for Mexico. We have 120 employees. And we have remote users. This is a key point, maybe for all of you in this room too. We have remote users. So with each of those districts that I mentioned, we have a district vice president that manages that district. Well, they're not in our office. They could be out in Washington State, up in Saskatchewan, Canada, Florida, wherever. They're remote users. They need access to the data that we, as finance professionals, need to provide. And one of the things I always tell folks, especially when local leaders from different affiliates come to visit us, one of the things I think as a finance professional that one of the things we do is we're in the information business. We provide information to our consumers. And who are our consumers? Well, the people we work with, like the different line managers, in my case, the district vice presidents. So the better that I can get that information out to folks and the quicker, the better job I'm doing. So one of the challenges we had at IAFF, and just a little more background, I've been there about 18 months. Prior to that, I was a consultant for them for 14 years, maintaining our Dynamics GP accounting system. So one of the problems, or challenges, I should say, that I encountered when I got there was our budgeting process. Who enjoys doing budgets? Anyone in this room? See that? Yeah, I don't see one hand. I didn't either. Very time-consuming. We used Excel spreadsheets. Most people do. No matter the size of your organization, you're probably, or you at some point, were doing your budgets in Excel. We have 84 different department/program areas that we budget for. So think of that spreadsheet that had developed over time. It had 84 tabs on it. Just imagine what it's like rolling that all up into a consolidated organization-wide budget. Not fun. Took a long time. And obviously very labor intensive. With that, human error. I mean, it was a bear. Manual manipulation of data. You want to make a change on one sheet, you got to roll it through a few others. It was just not a fun thing to do. What if scenarios? Well, if you've got a spreadsheet with 84 different tabs, what if you want to do some what if scenarios? Let's say I want to increase salaries by 2%. I got to hit every tab on there. Or let's say my travel budget, or whatever different what-if scenario we wanted to do really wasn't possible. From a reporting standpoint then, our reports were very static. Yeah, we'd get information out to our end users, but there was no drill-down functionality on there. People saw a number. Well, what is that number? Where did that budget number come from? Where did that actual number come from? So our reports were very static. It was very difficult to get the information out. And again, as I talked about, we had those remote consumers of information. Now, our principal officers, they travel a lot. They need access to information. As I said, our district vice presidents, they're not in our office. They need access to that information. Our different department managers, they travel a lot. In fact, back at the office, no one's there this week. They're all out in Denver at a conference. Well, they may need to get access to that data. So they're not at the office. So that remote aspect was very, very important for us. And timeliness. We all close our books at the end of the month, right? It's maybe within 5 working days, 10, 15, depending on, if you have the luxury of that little extra time. Well, getting that data out to those users in a timely manner so that it's meaningful. They can react on it if something's there that needs to be reacted to. So these are all the challenges that we had, technical difficulties. IT help. Ooh. All right, well, forget the slide. I'll just talk it through. So we had these problems, So I said, all right, we need a solution. So what were some of the things we needed? Well, our folks are used to spreadsheets, right? So one of the important things for us was something that had a familiar look and feel, something that was user-friendly. If it had the look of a spreadsheet, that'd be great, because that's what people were used to. So I wanted something that had a familiar look and feel, something that was very easy to use. Well, since we had remote users, web-based would be great. Didn't have to be web-based, but something that we could get our users to be able to access the information. And hopefully I can remember all these things. The other thing, I wanted a company that had been around, that was time-tested, proven, referenceable, customer support. Hopefully I won't need it too much, but hopefully that there was a support aspect there that if I needed them, they were there. Let me see. I guess those are our big things that we were looking for. So what did we do? Well, as a Dynamics GP user, does anyone here use any of the Dynamics accounting packages? There's a few hands. As a Dynamics GP user, we had certain tools available to us. We had a financial reporting tool, comes with the package, and the suite of products that we own, we also had a budgeting tool. So I had a tool right there, 2 tools available to me, free. I owned them. The only thing it would cost me would be to implement. So I looked at those, and for various reasons, we scratched those out. So we didn't go with those solutions. So then for me, okay, now another thing, I didn't want our product. Whatever we decided on, I didn't want it to have a lot of IT support. Something that would have minimal IT intervention, because they got enough to do. They have to worry about my solutions. That wouldn't be a good thing either. So I started looking at different solutions. So, we've got cloud. Everyone talks about the cloud, right? So we've got cloud solutions. All right, so I looked at some of those. Then I looked at on-premise solutions. And basically, I narrowed it down to 3 different solutions. I had 2 on-premise, and I had 1 cloud. And I said, okay. And I put them side by side. And for me, because of my situation, cloud solution worked out best for me. It was easy to implement. We actually had our solution up in 6 weeks from the time we signed the contract to when I had my users in the system preparing their budgets. And that was a must. We had to have that. So a cloud solution enabled that for me. If I was on-prem, there'd be other obstacles there. Hey, I got all of them. Wow, that's pretty good. Oh, and integrated with my accounting system. I forgot that one. I wanted something that integrated back into GP, because one of the things that I wanted in my solution was for my users to be able to run a report, see a number, drill down, get to the original transaction. So they knew with that number. I didn't want them calling accounting. My people got other things to do. They can't be answering the phone all the time with questions on financials from end users. So here's the things that we looked at. So we got our solution. And again, as I just mentioned, we got our solution up in 6 weeks. Our budget used to take months. I'm not exaggerating when I say months. We do it in weeks now. We're actually in our budget season right now. Thank goodness everyone's away, otherwise I wouldn't be able to be here, because then we'd be doing budgets back at the office. But about the last 2 weeks, we've been doing budgets, and on Wednesday, we'll finalize everything. It'll take back 2 weeks. That was unheard of in the past. The reason we're able to do that is we put in a solution. We're using technology. We put in a solution that gave all the supporting detail. Last year actuals, they're all there. You need to drill down, see what that is. It's all there. You need to attach a spreadsheet that backs up a certain figure, or a contract, or a PDF file, whatever. It's all there in the solution. So as we're reviewing at the different levels in our organization to approve these budgets, information's all right there. So we've got a level of transparency we've never had before. Now, in conjunction with this, we're also looking for a solution that I could also do my budgets, but also use my financial reporting tool. So now we talk about some of these other things. I wanted reports that could be run by end users. in that the data had to be accessible. So we've gotten to a place where data is accessible to my users. They can run a report at any point in time. We have our actual figures being updated every morning at 5 a.m. So if any of my district vice presidents or any of my department managers, they go run a report right now, they've got anything that was posted through the close of business yesterday. Can't get any more real time than that, really. Different people can only see certain things. Security is always an issue, right? You don't want to have a system and open it up so everybody can see everything. That's not a good thing. Well, we found a solution that we could lock it down so only certain people can see certain things. And within there, only certain people can do certain things. So we have some folks that can only see certain budget lines, and all they can do is enter data. Then I have other people that have a higher level that they can actually approve that data, do other things. And then we've got the highest level. So we were able to set security exactly the way I needed to set it. Bottom line, what does all this mean? It means that we need to empower our users. We're all used to the accounting folks doing all the work for everybody. And that's not what we want to do. Our roles have evolved. There's other things that we can be doing that are better uses of our time. I try to make it so that we can empower users outside of finance to do as much as they can themselves. And they take more ownership of the data then. So we've empowered users that they can run their reports, they can enter their budget data, and it's there. They own it now. And they can run those reports whenever they need to run them. Whenever you're looking at a solution, I don't know how many people have implemented solutions, whether it be accounting, budget, whatever. The biggest problem you have is what? User buy-in, right? People don't want to change. Why do you do it that way? Because it's the way we've always done it. Well, should we change? No, I like doing it this way. User buy-in is always a problem. Well, in our case, that was one of the reasons why we wanted something that was a similar look and feel. If you can get that user buy-in, people are going to own the system, they're going to use the system, it's going to make your job a lot easier. So that's one of the things that I stress is get that user buy-in at all levels. It's got to start at the top, but if you can get all your end users involved, that's going to help. Questions up to here. Does anyone have these problems? How does everyone do your budgets? Anyone use Excel spreadsheets? I see some yeses. Anyone using any other solutions? No, but you're using other, okay. So we got to a point where we now do our budgets in a few weeks. I have reports that folks can run when they need them. So what does that mean for the organization? We're able to be more agile. As things happen, we're able to react accordingly. Let's say we run a conference and registration's down. Well, heck, our people know that more readily now. Maybe we need to change some things. We can be more responsive to our members. And that's what, for us, that's really what we're in the business for, is to service the firefighters and paramedics around the U.S. and Canada. If I can get this data out to our end users and they see how their departments are running, maybe, we do a lot of training classes for firefighters. It's amazing that there is a science behind fighting a fire, which I never realized. You'd be amazed. But we do a ton of training classes for firefighters. Well, now, if we know where we are in a certain department, like if our education department knows where they are against certain budget items, well, they know that more readily now. Maybe we can offer another class. Or maybe we can say, well, that class isn't working so well. Maybe we can use this one. But it makes us more agile, and it makes finance more involved in the whole operation of the organization. Well, that's not the end of the story, though. We've got a great budgeting tool in. We're able to use technology. And just one of the things I mentioned before, IT involvement. Here's the level of IT involvement. 0. It's a cloud-based solution. You never have to worry about when it gets upgraded because it just happens. I come in the morning, it's done. I don't have to install anything on workstations. My IT involvement is 0. Can you say that they really love me for that? They've got enough to do. So those are some of the things that got us to this point. But that's not the end. We've got a number of things that we still want to do going forward. We want to review our chart of accounts. Now, we set up our solution based on our current chart of accounts, but we set it up with the future in mind. Whenever you implement a solution, let's say we're talking about a budget solution here, right? You can think about, okay, I need to do my budgets. It needs to integrate with my accounting system, and I need to get my financial reports out. Okay. But there's probably a bigger picture. There's more involved in that. Like for us, we're a membership organization. So what's our Bible? Well, aside from my general ledger, it's our membership system. How can I take that data and keep it involved? So when you're thinking of technology, think about the broader organization. Don't just keep inside your finance department. So we happen to configure, yes?
I have a question with a possible follow-up. Do you think you keep saying the IT, there's no IT involved?
Right.
Do you think that was because of your corporate culture, or because it's a budget tool and IT really doesn't care? And the follow-up question is, if you were looking at, let's say, automating your treasury management and putting bank information in the cloud, would your IT department have the same laissez-faire attitude, or would they be more concerned about security?
IT was very involved. Throughout our discovery process for the solution we picked, IT was involved in every meeting. So this wasn't done in a vacuum. They were fine either way. If we went on-premise, they were okay with that. We went cloud, they were okay with that. So it wasn't that we're trying to keep IT out, and it wasn't though it was a budgetary constraint, because we have the resources. We have, I want to say, 4 or 6 people on staff between IT support and network administrator, database administrator. We have the manpower on staff. So they were involved in the process. It just turned out that this was the better solution for us. When we were looking, what really tipped the scales for me to the cloud solution was that the on-premise solution I was looking at, I couldn't get warm fuzzy for what upgrades would cost and what root maintenance would be over the course of, say, a 3 to 5 year period. And the fact that they couldn't give me a real, you see, they were at a disadvantage. I was a Great Plains consultant, so I kind of know that side. In fact, they couldn't give me the warm fuzzies on what the cost would be to maintain an on-premise solution. So that's what made it easy for me to pick the cloud, because I knew what those costs were. It was my monthly subscription fee. They are what they are. Going forward, IT, yeah, they're concerned with security, but like you say, treasury management, I don't know how much IT is really going to, they're going to want proper security, but I think as a finance professional, I'd be more anal about that. But my IT department's very involved. In the back.
Yes, could you tell us which solution you chose and how many you considered?
We considered 4. The ones that I already owned, which was FRX and Forecaster, were the Dynamics products, which I just scrapped right away. And then I looked at Host Analytics, which was the cloud solution. I actually looked at 2 on-premise, Profix and Budget Maestro. I considered adaptive planning a little bit too. But I ended up, we went with the cloud Host Analytics is who we went with. Yes?
Do you have other solutions in the cloud, or is this it?
We're moving in that direction. The thought is possibly putting Outlook going on something like Office 365, not for our whole organization, but for some remote users. We have a lot of our servers are virtual, so it's easy for us to stand things up, so we're not hardware intensive. We're implementing more web pieces to our membership system, so we don't have other cloud per se. We're using an online procurement system.
I guess what I'm wondering is Host Analytics hosting this for you and their data center?
It's a cloud solution. It's theirs.
There were other clouds, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, please, there were other cloud services providers that would host this application and all your applications through that one single solution provider.
Yeah, it's,
You're not with that type
We-
of solution.
see,
With post-analytics.
yes, yeah. Cloud gets a little fuzzy because when you start talking about hosting, well, that could be, I could have my Great Plains accounting system hosted somewhere,
Right.
which, is that a form of cloud? Yeah, I guess it is, but this is pure cloud. They maintain the application. Yes?
On that Great Plains, you decided not to use their cloud or website aspect of Great Plains? You decided that the budget module was not, you weren't clear, besides knowing that Microsoft Office keeps sending annually, but nobody else knows.
Supposedly, the annual maintenance fee, you're supposed to be locked in at your list price when you bought it, so it's, but yeah, it's Microsoft, so they're always going to look for a revenue stream. We owned, it's called Forecaster, is the Microsoft tool. And for me, I couldn't get a warm fuzzy as to what was the path that Microsoft had for that product. Who knows what it's going to be, right? So the fact that they couldn't, I didn't have a clear picture on what their path was for that product, and the fact that it didn't do what we needed it to do. You know, it was a dinosaur. And then the reporting tool, FRX, which is now Management Reporter, it's just the same thing except just with a SQL backend. So the tools just didn't get me to where I wanted us to get to. So, but since we owned them, I had to look at them. The cost to implement would have been, peanuts.
And we now are able to take anything you do in health analytics and look at Great Plains, so we're still using it for GL and GL.
We haven't changed anything in our accounting system. It's just that every morning, transaction detail is imported into Host Analytics so I can report on that down to the transaction level detail. And I'll give you a neat thing that we're doing with that to enhance that a little further later. Yes?
From a scalability standpoint, you were one more employee, but as the company grows, the IT and finance become an important growth because you don't have to pay the maintenance cost when the job is ready and the salary comes in. There's a lot of acquisition happening. How did you, I think like in your case, you did not have much resistance from the people to the cloud. Typically, IT provide. So how do you think this can happen?
It's an interesting question. You're right. We didn't have that problem. Our IT folks, we have so many things that they're doing right now that to throw another application on them was not something that they would have wanted. So yeah, I had that luxury, but I can see where IT folks may say, wait, if you go in cloud, they lose some job security. That's a hard question to answer. I mean, I'm not sure that, I don't know how to answer that one. It's just keep them involved. Make it, I don't want to say a joint decision, but keep them involved in the process. Like we did, they were involved in the discovery all along, and I valued their opinion and I asked their opinion. Hopefully you won't come across that too often. Yes?
Challenges, I don't know if you're going to go here, but any challenges with the end users? Because you've been given them access to do their job.
The only challenge is that people remember the training they went through. See, in our case, folks do their budgets and they didn't touch the system for another 10 months. So when we came time for this budget season again, how do I do that again? Yeah, kind of. It comes down to, you'll see it later, training.
So this is just a budgeting tool, it's not like a monthly financial follow-up?
No, we also use this as our financial reporting tool as well.
Is your end user involved in that?
Yes. Yes, they run their own reports.
And is there a challenge there? So
No.
the budgeting, I get, the training, don't forget. What about
Yeah.
the monthly?
On a monthly basis, no. Folks are running their reports. They to a person, I have not heard a negative word about the system. So, but see, I had the luxury, which unfortunately a lot of you may not have. My users were ready for a change. When I would go into a meeting with management and we'd talk about, okay, those spreadsheets, they're going bye-bye, it was a stand-up round of applause. So that was a luxury I had. Again, it gets back to end-user buy-in. I didn't have that problem, but that's a key. So, you got to have your users buy in. Yes?
We do one budget per year, we go to forecast
We don't reforecast. Correct. Now, one of the things we do, I'll talk about this, but we can talk about it now. We have a lot of grants, both federal and mainly federal now. So we're doing our grant reporting in here as well, and our grant budgeting. So yeah, we do one budget for the organization. We don't reforecast, but we probably have about another 15 or so budgets in there for each of our grants. So it adds a level of complexity in there. Yes. Reports it's a blank canvas. Design the reports the way we want them. The actual reporting that we do to the feds, we don't do that reporting. We do P&Ls out of here. So our grants administrators can see where they are budget versus actual on the various approved budget lines. As far as the reporting, the monthly, quarterly, based on the different grants, we don't do that out of here. Other questions? Yes?
Just to follow up to that question, reporting, does the time reporting system entail treating this, or you have to use that separately to report?
It doesn't. I mean, I haven't. Let me take that back. I haven't integrated it, but it could. I mean, I've integrated Great Plains. I'm going to integrate our membership system data into here. So the tools are there. Yes?
What was the implementation process? Was your team very involved with it?
We did it in 2 phases. We did the budgeting piece first because that was the real time constraint. We signed October 1st. I needed the budgeting tool up before Thanksgiving, basically 6 weeks. And we hit that target really without a problem. From our end, I was really the only person that really needed to do anything on our end, and it did not take a ton of my time. And then I had folks on the other end. It was all done via WebEx, and we really didn't need anyone on site. And we would have weekly status meetings, and we just hit each milestone, and it was probably one of the easiest implementations I've ever been through in 14 years of installing software. And I think part of that went with the fact that it was a cloud solution. We didn't have to configure servers. We didn't have to install anything. It was just signing off and letting them know, yes, we're ready to go, and they just stand up the system for me. Yes?
You mentioned that because you couldn't get the warm and fuzzies on the price increases or upgrades, that factored into your decision. Was there any difference between getting the implementation time frame where they both would all the solutions take just about as long to integrate, whether or not it was cloud-based or on-premise?
I would think that an on-premise would take longer. I didn't get into a time frame because I just couldn't get to the point where I was comfortable with that solution. But just from having worked with software, that on-premise I would think it would have to take longer because you have additional components. You have to configure servers. You got to install the software, and do whatever other config. Before you even get to configuring the software itself. Could other solutions hit our time frame? Yeah, maybe. But I didn't get that far along with the ones we were looking at. Yes?
I'm curious, you mentioned, you indicated sort of the warm and fuzzy as sort of that primary differentiator, but you also mentioned that, and it didn't really do what you wanted.
Well,
Putting that future cost aside for the moment, what was the functionality?
it's actually 2. On the products I owned, the Forecast or the Microsoft products, that didn't have the functionality. The other solutions I looked at, functionality was pretty similar. So it really did just come down to I guess you could call it cost of ownership. For the 2, the third one, the Budget Maestro, that one that didn't have the functionality, but it seemed like the functionality was comparable. Anyone else? All right. So moving forward, so there's some things that we're going to do with our system. We want to revamp our chart of accounts, and I'll be able to do that, and I'll be able to roll those changes right into our system. See, what we did, we used to have more than those 84 budget lines. There were 10 I consolidated all into one last year. So it used to be greater. So we're trying to streamline some things. We want to increase the data and the reporting that we can get to our end users. One of the things we're doing at IAFF is we're putting in a document management system. How many people have paper upon paper upon paper, file rooms? I'm sure office space is expensive where all you guys are too. Well, if you could see the amount of space we have for file rooms, you'd shake your head and say, oh my goodness. So one of the things we're doing is we're implementing a document management system. I want to get rid of all this paper. And what we're going to do is, I talked about our financial reports, where folks can run their reports, they can see the figures, they can drill down to transaction detail, right? They can see, oh, that was an invoice from Verizon on this date, and here's what it was for. Okay. Boy, wouldn't it be great if they could actually see the invoice? That would be pretty cool, right? Well, we're actually in the process of implementing a document management system and tying it into the solution. So when you get down to the transaction level detail, there's going to be a link there to get you to the original document, whether it be an invoice or a spreadsheet or a contract. The point being, think outside the box. You implement your system, don't stop there. Think, what else can I do? What are my end users asking for? Ask. Who knows? You may be able to do it. I asked this and said, sure, you can do that. So don't think outside that box. Get creative. Yes?
Once you've got the document system in, you're constant training with telling them how to actually file and where to file it. Because you'll find out that people file, put something in, and never put it in the right place. And now you've used up so much space that IT's got to go in and clean the whole thing up. And that took us 2 months to turn it around.
Really?
And then retraining everybody. And someone's got to watch the store that's going in.
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah, we're in the implementation phase right now, so we're configuring and trying to get the system so that it works for what our end users want. So we've gotten to the point now where we've increased the amount of data that we've gotten out to folks, the timeliness that they can run these reports. And yeah, we've got some certain reports done, but what I've told all of our users said, this isn't the end. If you got a report you want, ask. This is not a static list of reports. It's dynamic. You want new reports? Let's go. Let's bang away at the system. So now we've got a tool where folks can ask and they can receive. We're going to begin to move more and more of our grant reporting and budgeting into the application. That was something we did it offline. Spreadsheets. You know, everything was in spreadsheets. We had so many spreadsheets, it was insane. So we're moving more of that into our application. And I was talking to our grants administrator the other day, and she's got a gal that works with her who does all of, I'll say the record keeping track of the budgets and different things, in addition to the person on my staff in finance. And we gave them access to a few things in the application so that they can run some reports that they used to do by hand. And she said to me, Warren, Gifty is the gal's name. She said, Gifty said you increased her performance by 85%. That was her words. She's doing things 85% quicker than she was before. They asked, and I said, well, let's take a look. So we're putting more of that grant information in there. We're going to integrate this with other systems. I talked about both of them, our membership database and our document management system. And that ties into the last point there. Our principal officers, our general president, our general secretary treasurer, travel around the country and Canada all the time. They go to different state association meetings and conventions and different things. And they're meeting with people all the time. Wouldn't it be great, and they carry iPads, just like most of us probably carry iPads, wouldn't it be great if they could turn on their iPad and have a dashboard there that said, okay, here's, for this state, here's how many members we have, and here's, whatever the information might be, or how's cash flow, or whatever. Wouldn't it be great if they could have a dashboard, turn on an iPad and say, oh, yeah, there it is, based on wherever they're going that day. Well, that's our next thing. That's the one I'm looking forward to all of these things, but that's the one I'm really excited about. I want to create these dashboards for my key executives. So some of the lessons learned. In our case, it was pretty easy. Have a clear understanding of that business process or problem. What you're looking to automate. Someone said to me once, you need to understand the manual process before you can automate it. Yeah, I guess you do. And then to be able to communicate that to whomever, whatever solution vendor you're looking at. You have to understand that process. You have to devote adequate resources. Now, in our case, we had a 6-week time frame, right, that we wanted to implement this solution. And there was a point in the middle somewhere where we were really up against the gun. Oh, gosh, we may not make it. You want to know why? Had nothing to do with the vendor. It was me. I wasn't putting the time into it. And it wasn't that it took a lot of time, but it was me. It was really just me allocating my time better, being better in time management. So be able to adequately devote the resources. Communication. We're in the process of doing another project now in a totally different realm. But one of the things is communication. Have those weekly status meetings. Keep those lines of communication open. You don't want any surprises. Get 6 weeks into an implementation, you say, that's not what I meant. Well, if you're not communicating, that's not going to be a good thing to have. Have a clear understanding of the required IT resources. This gets back to where I was looking for on-premise. Well, what was going to be my IT spend? How much time of my IT people is it going to take? I couldn't get a clear understanding there. So understand that whether you go cloud or on-premise, it's your preference. You don't have to go cloud. That's just happened to be my preference. That's what worked best for us. But understand what IT resources you're going to need to devote to whatever project it is you're looking at. And then we talked about this, and this is maybe the most important. Training, training, training. Train your folks. If they need retraining, we actually did up a couple of PDFs with screenshots specific for our application. Train your folks. You'd be surprised. Within 30 days, I bet you they're probably looking at whatever system you implemented and loving it. Yes? Not hard and fast, but like in the host analytics that we're using.
Going back to that Kelvin statement, the PDFs going all over the place, that was important to the top of the same PDF architecture. When you start to customize all these reports,
Mm-hmm.
you tend to have the same report over and over.
And you get a list this long.
This long, and well, it doesn't take up any space, it ends up being
Right. I'm monitoring that. We have a handful of reports. I have an audit trail where I can look and see who's doing what, when they're doing it, and what they're doing. That's how I know who's in the system and who's not. And so, I mean, and I guess if I could take the time and put those metrics together, I just took a general overview just to see who's in the system.
And who actually uses this? The leadership from national district, or could be Joe member?
Well, it's not Joe member. This is just for the employees of the IAFF and then our district vice presidents. This is not, we're not providing data actually out to members. But no, it's just because financial data like that we don't provide that to members. But when it comes to membership data, there are some things in that arena that we're looking to put more out there on the web for our end users. This may play a role, it may not, but this tool really wasn't meant for members. It's meant more for the organization internally. Questions? Anything else? I think we're back on time. Yes. Can they get a copy of the presentation? Ask the performative folks. And other questions? All right. Can you? We've got a few more minutes here. If you'd like any questions, I'll be staying around if you want to chat offline. Do we have any other questions? Yes.
So how do you feel about this stupid FRX, which is the
My users hated FRX.
I hate it too.
Designing reports wasn't that easy. Cosmetics, that you couldn't get presentation quality reports out of it. Well, the management reporter is a little bit better in that aspect. The drill down wasn't where it needed to be. The new tool, management reporter, does not have a web piece like the FRX web port used to be. So it was a no-brainer for us. It just didn't do what we needed it to do. So, and I'm a Great Plains guy. For me to say that, that's blasphemy. Other questions? All righty. Well, thanks all for coming. I'm around if you have any questions, want to chat offline.